and I'm in the evening, but it was a gorgeous day here today as well. It was very, very nice. So you're so welcome for the last session in our series of Achieving Executive Assistant Excellence. And welcome to everybody who's joining us as well on LinkedIn Live. So Lisa, today we're just going to do actually a recap of all of the sessions so far that we've covered. And then we'll talk about how it all comes together and how you can truly show up in excellence in your role on a daily basis. So let's just get straight into it.
Sounds good, Fiona.
Talk about, so the first session that we did was all about creating your vision. So we'll recap on each topic, and maybe if you can give, your top 3 takeaways for each topic, for each of them, and then we'll go from there.
Brilliant. Sounds great. So our vision is where we start off, which is why we kickstarted this series with vision, because once we have a clear vision, we know what direction we want to go in. So for me, I suppose my top 3 takeaways would be, firstly, clarity around creating that clarity around what you want and how you do that. So if anyone missed that session, they can listen back on how we create our clarity, because that's really important. And secondly, some people had mentioned that, they were struggling with creating clarity. So I would always say, if you're struggling, if you're feeling a bit blocked, you're not sure what it is in an EA role that you really want from that role, I would say get some support from people around you, a networking group, coaching, career coach, something like that, because we all have blind spots. And sometimes the harder we try to create something for ourselves, the more blocked we feel, because, as somebody once said to me, you need help to see the back of your own head. You need somebody to hold the mirror in front of and have the other mirror in front of you. And it's the same when it comes to anything. We need help sometimes to clear those blind spots.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it can be around, and I'm speaking from my own experience here, sometimes if we find, we're going from one job to another, and they're not working out for us, we get to look at ourselves, because it can be that we are maybe not feeling confident in what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
We're feeling a bit uncomfortable. Oh, I thought this job would be different. I thought, I'd get on better with my colleagues. I thought I'd get on better with my boss. I thought it would be different than the last, but it's not. And if you find that pattern is happening, that used to happen to me, because I didn't realize that it was normal to feel uncomfortable in a role. You've got to feel uncomfortable at certain times, because that's how we grow, that's how we develop. But I felt it was because I wasn't good enough.
I mean, in terms of, just to clarify, Lisa, because there could be a fine line between feeling uncomfortable and feeling anxious, or feeling like you're not, there's a gut feeling around not being in the right place, maybe. But you know what I mean? So just to kind of clarify that for people.
Yes. So sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. So when I say uncomfortable, I mean feeling like out of my comfort zone. So challenged, like, oh gosh, I'm feeling challenged, whether it's around, it could be communicating with others, it could be a piece of work that I had to work on, but I expected myself to just naturally know how to do things and do them with ease.
Yeah.
But know that there's always going to be challenges around a role.
Right.
And it's okay to feel like unsure. That's normal. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. But yes, I mean, that's different to feeling like, okay, this is I'm not liking what I'm feeling here, as in it's not a good place for me to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be vision. So that would be they would be my top 3 takeaways there.
So the next one, the next session that we had then was all about assessing your environment, which was kind of went beyond just your physical environment, went further than that. So if you want to kind of give your top takeaways, and just actually for everyone who's tuned in today, we will be sharing in case you missed any of the sessions, we will be sharing the full link, the full list to everybody, anyone who's ever joined any of the sessions. So even if, you know, if you couldn't make it today, we'll be sharing all of the sessions with you. But it's really good to recap anyway, Lisa, for what we're going to talk about, bringing it all together at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, your environment is really important, as you know, Fiona, because our environment makes up like what we're doing, where we're at for the most part of our day. So it's really important that we create an environment that is positive for us. So you can create your own environment. You know, you make your, and I don't just mean by having a nice area to sit in and that kind of thing, but it's about using your mind in a positive way so that you're creating a positive environment and a positive experience for you in your workplace.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really important that we live for our own experiences. So if you're happy in your role and you're happy with your boss and you're enjoying what you're doing, it's important that you don't get influenced by other people's negative experiences.
Right.
Because everyone's experience is different. Everyone's idea of, you know, what somebody's like to work with will be different. So what I would always say is you stand for you, and until your experience changes, well, if you're happy with what you're doing, that's the main thing. If you're happy with the person you work with, if you're happy with the organization, you keep that for you, you experience that for you, and forget about if other people are trying to influence you or there's negative chatter, because it's extremely easy to get in onto that negative pattern and way of thinking.
And you're living proof of that. Like you are, and you've walked the walk in that one, because you realized it in a number of the roles that you were in, and you thought, well, I'm going to step away from this sort of negative talk and I'm going to make my own of this role.
Yeah. I mean, many times I was told that's not going to work for you. That person's so difficult. You're going to regret that. But I'm like, well, that's your experience. And most of the time, those people who were talking to me had never worked with the person that I had worked with, the people that I'd worked with. It's it's just perception. People get an idea of he or she is so difficult.
Yeah.
But until you were working with somebody and you try it and test it, you don't know. And you've got to make it your own, because if you go in with the mindset of this is going to be a nightmare, well, that's what you're going to create for yourself. But if you go in with an open mind, clean slate, I'm going to make the best of this, I'm going to do what I can to create positive working environment, well, that's generally what you will create for yourself.
Perfect.
But it's your experience.
Yeah.
And then
Lisa,
also,
Ashling just sent me a private message there to say that the audio is a bit crackly. So I'm just going to fix my headphones here and see.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, and it doesn't sound crackly on my side. So
okay, well, hopefully that helped what I just did there. Okay, great. So sorry.
That's okay.
The next, yeah.
So the final point then on the environment as well is because we're so easily influenced by the people around us, and this happens to us in every walk of life, not just our workplace, it happens in school, it happens in our social scene, that sometimes we have fear of judgment from others. So we can allow that to hold us back. So it's really important to forget about what others think. Like if you want to use your voice, if there's something different you want to put yourself forward for a promotion, you want create something, take on a new project, don't worry about what other people will say, because a lot of people are afraid to use their voice in a meeting or put themselves forward for a promotion in case it doesn't work the way they hoped, and then they're worried about what others say. It takes practice. Again, this is something that a lot of people get support around from a networking group, from coaching. that it's okay to walk your own walk, not to worry about what other people think or other people say.
It can be very hard in this particular role because it's such an isolated role, like you're part of the team, but you're not. You're in with the management team, but you're sitting, you know what I mean, unless you're on the board. Or so it's quite a tricky one to navigate at times, and to feel that confident, in using your voice. It can be very tricky within this particular role, right?
Yeah, because you're often you can feel like you're stuck in the middle. So as you say, you're not part of the leadership team as such, and you're sometimes the staff on the floor can see you as being part of the leadership team because you work, we say, for a CEO.
Yeah.
So you sometimes feel a bit. So it's trying to create that even keel for yourself, which you can do. It is, absolutely possible to do. But again, it's just knowing the tools and having that mindset to set yourself up in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. You deserve to be there. You deserve to be using your voice when you understand the business and the organization, what the objectives are, and where you fit in and where you want to go yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes down to your self-belief as well, and your confidence. When you feel confident, of course, it's much easier.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So were there any other points on that one?
Yeah, I think that's really it. Just use your mind in the right way.
Yeah, great. So then the next session that we had was all about identifying your value. And that was a really interesting one, actually, because one of the participants who attended that particular chat sent us a message afterwards and said, "Hi, Fiona, I listened on Monday night about identifying one's own value. As the conversation moved on to the case where a person's role is not valued by their executive, it was like all of my thoughts and circumstances were spoken out loud. This conversation really confirmed to me the need for myself to make a change. I've taken a risk, resigned with the hope that 2023 will bring me a more fulfilling role in which my skills are valued. Thank you for your insight." Now, we both got goosebumps, didn't we, when we got that message in, because it was actually like that really resonated with that person, and we were so happy that we could help them to come to that realization and actually give them that confidence to go in and go, "That's it, I'm done, I've done enough here and I need to move on." So that was a real result of the back of that session that we did. So just to recap on that session, Lisa, what would you say your top takeaways were from that one?
So, it's about, again, knowing your value, as in you're there for a reason. You're there because of your skills. You're there because of your attributes. They chose you, the interview panel chose you over others. So there's a reason you're there. So know that there's a reason you're there. Know that you are good enough and that you deserve to be valued.
Yeah.
Because you've got something that others may not have. Like, we all have our own skills. We all have our own value. And it's really important that you see your value. And when you can do that confidently, that's when you, like that person that was on the session a few weeks ago, I think the chat made her see, you know what, I do have a value.
Yeah.
Like, I have high quality skills. I have high quality attributes that I bring to an organization. So why would I stay somewhere when that's just not being seen, when I'm clearly not being valued?
Yeah.
So sometimes we get to take a step back and look at, we're not just here because the company hired us for the good of our health. Like, we're here for a very good reason. So it's important to see that. And it's important also that you know your values, what's important to you. because what's important to you is really important, like who you're working with, the type of environment you're working in, the type of organization you're working in, what you're doing. Is this work valuable to you? Are you creating something valuable?
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's kind of like finding that purpose in your role as well, right?
yeah, you've got to have a purpose. You've got to be creating something valuable when you go in. You've got to feel like you're part of something. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
feel like this is worthwhile. I'm creating something worthy here. So it's important that you get that sense of
Yeah.
value in your role.
Yeah.
And it's, taking time to, like, if I'm feeling stagnant, if I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just showing up here and I don't even know why I'm here anymore, that's when you really get to look at your values and your value and what it is that you really want and what's going on. Because that could just be a conversation that turns things around, or it might be a big turning point, like, you know what, now it's time for me to take the next to move.
Yeah, because if you're feeling unfulfilled within your role, within the organization, there's no point in hanging around there. You have to find something that resonates with you
And it
in
also
what you're doing every day.
exactly, yeah. And it also comes down to looking at your skills gap as well. That's part of your value.
Yeah.
Because you might be feeling unfulfilled in the role, but you might see a gap where perhaps there's project management that could be done. There's a project you could be working on. There's an area that you could, take on, but you don't have a particular skill for that. So that's where you get to look and see, okay, maybe if I was to upskill, there's this other section that I could move into. Because the role is changing. We talked about this as well. The EA role is changing all the time. So the things that we were spending time on 10 years ago is not the things that we're spending time on now.
Yeah. And that's it. And particularly for someone who's in a role or an organization a long time and is used to doing things a certain way. And it's, there's a lot of job specs out there now, as we've seen, that have included project management, that have included social media, that have included, all these other, event management is probably part of the role for a while now, but it's becoming more and more handed over to an EA or a PA. And it's having those skills and having that knowledge that's, I suppose, going to get you ahead in your role if you are keeping up with the pace of how quickly things are moving. And in some ways it makes the role more dynamic for you as well. And so it's important, if that is a role that you want to get into, that, if those are skills that you're not using, but it might be something you want to create for yourself within your next role, or even with the role that you're in, that you want to add on to it. It's knowing that, okay, I can do this. I'd actually like to reach out to somebody else in another department and say, listen, that project you're working on, I'd love to get some experience on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what keeps us engaged in the role as well, is kind of moving and changing and taking on new aspects of the role. Because the more comfortable we get in a role, it might seem like that's great to be really comfortable in your role, but it gets boring after a while. That's when we get complacent and we get a little bit, stagnant. So, and skills can be anything. Could be, communication skills, can be your confidence skills. It could be, doesn't have to be hard skills. There can be, you get to look at yourself as well as the actual role. Like, what can I do differently here?
Yeah, exactly. Kristen just put a note. I'm breaking up a little. Oh no.
I noticed
that's still the crackling. Was there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and talk, Leslie. So I'll leave it up to you. Just ask the questions. So yeah, just on the skills gap, then I guess if you do have a network or a support group to help you identify those things as well.
Yeah, again, Fiona, great point. Your skills sometimes can be your blind spots that you're not seeing. So if you've got a network of people that you're with, or you've got, or you see, so sometimes in a network, they'll point out, actually, have you, this would be something you'd be great at. because they know you. These are people that that know you. So this would be something you'd be great at. Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? And then if it's something where you really need, we'll say, individual support, a career coach will always be able to support you. Like, you'll always get support from a coach or a networking group, because trying to navigate on your own, it can be exhausting. And sometimes you never hit the nail on the head. So when you've got that little bit of support behind you, it really helps you to get exactly to where you want to go.
Yeah, perfect. So was there anything else you wanted to mention on identifying your value?
No, I think that's really it. I think we covered the top takeaways there.
Okay, Rachel is saying try without your headset, Fiona. Okay, I'll do that. Let's see. Effective communication was the next one, Lisa. On that point.
On that point, yeah, what's going on? So effective communication is, it's not just about us speaking, it's about us listening and hearing. So there's a number of points, and as you know, I love communication, so I could talk about it all day, so I'll keep it as brief as I can. Firstly, if we want to effectively communicate, it comes down to confidence. We've got to feel confident in, number one, what it is we want to communicate. And we've got to feel, just feeling confident in ourselves that the message that we want to relay, we're confident around that. And we're not feeling fearful of the other person's response or reaction, or of what they're going to come back to us with.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. To deliver your message effectively, you've got to feel confident, and there's a number of ways that you can work on that. Also, sorry, were you going to say something there, Fiona?
I was just going to ask you on that, because you said about not being fearful, and we were talking in one of the sessions about having emotional attachment to an outcome, to the outcome of a conversation or to the outcome of a particular situation. And just to clarify around the area of emotional attachment, so people understand that.
Yeah, so an emotional attachment is when we go in and we're holding emotion around what it is that we want to get from the conversation. And when the conversation, if it goes a certain way that we're not liking, we can feel like it's hitting us personally. So we can take what the other person is saying personally. We can get upset. We can feel disappointed. Okay, disappointment is not so, fair enough, but we can tend to get upset or frustrated or annoyed or feel like it's personal to us, like really let down. So if you can kind of go in feeling neutral without having emotional attachment. So if you can go in just feeling confident, calm, grounded, whatever I get back from this conversation, however this conversation goes, it's okay. It's not a personal attack on me. This is about how we can do things differently, what's working, what's not working, what's possible. So
I think it can be difficult to get your head around the idea of doing that, because a lot of the time we're motivated by our emotions, or you know what I mean? If we take a lot of pride in our role, if we care about what other people think and everything like that, we're conscientious. It can be difficult not to feel that way. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have perspective. Like, I always think, if I've got a stressful situation I have to deal with, and I think, is this going to matter in 12 months' time? And most of the time the answer is no. And then I don't feel as stressed now, and I know I can handle it. So I think it's little tools like that can maybe help you.
Yeah, and we hold emotional attachment on many things. If you're a salesperson and you're making sales calls, you're doing enrollment calls, whatever, a lot of the time we hold an emotion. I really need to get this sale. If I don't get this sale, I don't get my bonus. That's an emotional attachment. because you're making it about you, about what I need to get out of this. So it's affecting your emotion. Whereas if you can go in more neutral, okay, this is not solely about me personally. This is about what I can do for the organization, how I can do things better, how I can improve, how I can help, my boss, how I can take the pressure off him or her, how I can do. So, it's shifting how we perceive it. It's shifting how we see it. It's like focusing outwards. It's not about me. It's about a bigger picture.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, that's really good, Lisa. Thanks for explaining that further. So I know you had some other points to make on the effective communication takeaways.
Yes, again, the listening and the hearing is really important. And again, just taking what the person is saying just taking it for what they're saying. Again, it's trying not to take it personally or without judgment. So it's like, okay, this is what I'm hearing you say. Sometimes if we repeat back, so what I'm hearing you say is this, am I right? That helps, because it helps us get clarity around what we're hearing. Because if we're hearing something that maybe is not what we were expecting, sometimes it's just like a haze.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
And just kind of thinking like, okay, and I've said this so many times before, if we don't get the answer we want, at least we know where we stand. At least we're not second guessing. No is new opportunity. It's like,
Yes.
okay, they said no. Okay, let's look at what else is possible here.
Great. Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, so I think those are the 4 areas covered, unless you had anything else to say on effective communication. I know we could talk for hours about it.
I know, it's like my baby, communication, because it's something I've worked on for so many years. So I could talk all day. But yeah, that's it. Our 4 are like vision, creating your environment, knowing your values, and then effective communication.
And so once we have those all tied together, now say you're equipped with all those tools and you have this new knowledge. I suppose to bring it all back to showing up in excellence in your role, how can you measure the results from what you've done to change things, I suppose? Would you start to set some goals? How can you measure everything that you're implementing?
Yeah, that's really important actually, so that we can see how far we've come. So firstly, keeping a journal, keeping a diary, like what we spoke about maybe last week or the week before. So if you are noting down where you're at, what's going on for you, and seeing how things, so you take notes on meetings, take notes on your appraisal, you will see how far, and honest notes. This is how I felt when I went in, this is what happened, this is how I felt when I came out, and where you were challenged, and then how you worked on that challenge. Like say you did an appraisal 3 months ago and you're extremely nervous, and you decide, okay, I'm going to work on my confidence around that. And then you look at how you were going in 3 months later down the line. Keeping a journal, keeping a diary, an honest, clear diary is important, because that will allow you to see, you can measure, and you can also measure what you were doing, like your role, how it has changed. But sometimes we lose sight of all that we've done.
Absolutely. It's very easy to do that, isn't it? In the humdrum hustle and bustle of everyday life and work life and everything, so it's very important to do that, I think, and to look at how far you've come, where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also, I always say, get feedback from trusted people around you. Whether it's somebody that you have a trusting relationship with in your organization, or a networking group, or you've decided to invest in a coach, those people will give you honest feedback
Mm-hmm.
on your growth, because it's, we sometimes we can't see our growth. We just don't see it. But other people see our growth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very true. Isn't it funny how the brain works sometimes that you can't acknowledge those things for yourself, or
Yeah,
you don't have that self-awareness always.
but it's like when a child is growing up, and I know my niece and nephew. So my auntie or my sister has a ruler on the wall,
Yeah.
because a child doesn't notice how tall they're getting.
Yeah.
Everyone else notices how tall they're. Wow, you're getting so tall. A child has no idea. So they stand and they mark with the ruler on the wall. Look how tall I've gotten. It's the same with us, in what we want to create for ourselves as adults. If we want to see how much we've grown, we've got to have a measuring tape, and
Yeah.
we've got to measure it.
Yeah. That's great. That's a really good analogy, Lisa. One we can all relate to for sure. Um, and so look, kind of going beyond yourself, right? And realizing that you're in a good place now. You've implemented all these changes within your role. You're working towards showing up in excellence every day. You know, at what point should you take stock? Okay, how is this impacting? How is what I'm doing now impacting not just myself, but also my executive and the wider organization? Would you recommend, are there ways that can be measured?
Again, that's where I think effective appraisals really come in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's really important that organizations have effective communication within each, like that you can effectively communicate with your executive. Because again, we don't know, like, if you're not communicating with your executive around how effectively you're both working together, what you might feel and what he might feel can be two different things.
Mm.
Is that what you mean? Like, how
Yeah,
whether you're creating that, like, effectively in your role,
exactly. Because
that
it's
you're
it's all I think it's all well and good to be in a place where you're feeling more fulfilled, to feel like you are um, making a change and you're getting more out of your role than you were in the past. But then it's also about, does anyone else around here realize this? Are these changes recognized or acknowledged or noticed by the people around me? And what is the impact on them, and what is the impact on the organization? Like, is there a knock-on impact? So I think it's, about thinking
the
bigger than
bigger.
yourself in that regard. That's kind of
Yeah.
what I mean. Yeah.
And like, sometimes, it doesn't matter if others don't recognize. It's about how you're feeling,
Okay.
But
Yeah.
of course, you want to be in, like, showing up as best you can for your executive, because you're there
Mhm.
to support that person. So I think, yes, it's really important that you can have the conversation with him or her and say, like, how do you feel things are going? Because I feel like I've gone from here to here, and I've really grown in the role, and I want to obviously show up as best I can to support you.
Mhm.
So that's the only way you're going to get the feedback. And then in that conversation, it will most likely come up that the person will say to you, yes, and Fiona in HR was just saying how you've really grown in the role, and like she mentioned a conversation that you had, you know what I mean? So the more
Yeah.
conversations you have with people, the more you're going to hear feedback.
Yeah. And just before I ask you about the key questions, Lisa, that we're going to talk about on this session, confidence has come up a lot, right? So, and I know, like, we had a session on it at the summit this year as well, and we've worked with Adam Fiddler before on it. So, confidence is definitely something that can be built, but it can take time. And in relation to the role of the executive assistant, you know, and I suppose on top of coaching and, develop, like using your voice and standing in your power and getting yourself set up with the right environment and all of that, are there any other suggestions you would have for somebody to build their confidence?
Yeah. Confidence is a huge area to, when you're working at that level, whether even if you're not at CEO level, but to be in a supporting role for somebody, you do need authentic confidence, because it's really important that you use your voice. It's important that you set boundaries. It's important you know your worth and your value, and that comes with time. If you're feeling like you need to build your confidence, start now, but get support around it, because it's a difficult thing to do. You can read the books, you can listen to audios, but confidence grows when you're surrounded by the right people. So again, I always say, if you can have accountability buddies, if you have a networking group, if you've got people you can reach out to for support, that is what will really help you to grow and develop your confidence. Coaching is great for confidence, because you get the tools, the same as, if you're in any kind of support group, you get tools, you get a roadmap, and you also have somebody to help you measure, because you're going to have exercises to do and work to do on yourself, so you can measure, and you'll be setting goals for yourself, because there are goals that you can set when you're trying to build your confidence. You'll be doing things that will get you outside of your comfort zone, and there's also lots of little tools that you can do to build on your confidence, to see you for who you really are, and they're measurable.
What are your thoughts on, like, priming or affirmations, or all of that?
Affirmations are really, I mean, they're really, I know it can sound like woo woo, people, affirmations, but mirror talk and mirror work is really, really important. It's really important. I still do mirror work when I feel I need to, because how we talk to ourselves, what we tell ourselves in the mirror out loud with emotion, is really impactful. And it's difficult to do at the start. It's really difficult, because it's not natural. It doesn't feel natural.
Even though you're on your own.
Yeah, it feels strange, And I remember when I started doing mirror work first, I used to do it in the car, and I used to look in the rear view mirror, and I felt that was a bit easier. And then I worked my way up, and now I just do it. But it's telling yourself the things that are great about you, and the things that you actually, like, acknowledging you for you. And I always say, pick the things that you're usually hard on yourself about. Acknowledge those things, because they're really important. We need every part of our body, and we need, like, our mind and our personality, they're you. And if you're hard on that, if you're telling yourself negative things all the time, that is what you're going to believe. But if you start changing up that story and looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself positives, eventually, it doesn't happen overnight. It's about rewiring your mind, rewiring your thoughts. Eventually, that is what you start to see and believe. But
is that something you do every day then, Lisa, or how often?
I used to do it every day when I started this work, like, many years ago. Now I would do it. So if I have to give a presentation, if I have to have a difficult conversation, if I'm doubting myself over something, I will go stand in the mirror and I'll have a conversation. I tell myself positives that will allow me to affirm that, you've got this, you're okay.
Yeah, brilliant. We've got our anybody who does our Elevate program gets an affirmation calendar. So it's like affirmations with actions attached. So there's one for every day of the year, and you've got your affirmation, but there's also an action attached to it. That is, so it's even more measurable than just doing the affirmation. But yeah, I think it's a great tool, and it is very, very useful. And I think once you get into the swing of it, it doesn't, like, obviously, like anything, and this is where it all comes back down to confidence as well. The more you do something, so the more you speak up at meetings and the more that you feel you use your voice, the more that you set boundaries, the more rehearsed, the more practice you get at anything, the more confidence you're going to have, right?
Absolutely. And I know, like, the clients that I work with, when I, give them this exercise to start doing, they come back to me for a number of weeks and they say, I didn't do the mirror work because I just find it so difficult. I'm like, but that's why you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because you find it difficult.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by feeling uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable in areas like this where we're like, oh, I just really don't want to do it because it just feels so squirmy. Like, just the only way out is through. So you've got to practice. It's like listening to our own voice.
Yeah.
On a tape or on a video. It's really cringy at the start, but you just get used to it.
Yeah, the more you do it, you sure do. Okay, Lisa. So just back to showing up in excellence every day. What are the 8 key questions that you need to ask yourself to raise your game and aspire for excellence in your role?
Okay, so I have 8 key questions that I have written down here because I said I won't remember them if I don't write them down.
Your head, but they are yours.
Yeah. Okay, so what's really important is, like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want people to say about you? What's important to you? Okay, like, if people were talking about you behind your back, what would be the things that they would say that would make you feel proud? And that comes down to your values, and who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Like, this is not about being, big-headed or blowing your own trumpet. It's important. What do I want people to feel about me, or, like, in the workplace? What do I want to be known for?
Mm-hmm.
And then, what do you stand for? What's important to you? And that would come again for what you want to be known. They're kind of connected.
Mm-hmm.
But what you stand for is your value. Like, what are your values?
Yeah.
Are you a trustworthy person? Like, we get to look at that. Do we keep our word?
Mm-hmm.
Do we turn up? Are we discreet? Does your executive know that he can have a conversation with you and it's completely confidential?
Yeah.
Do you keep your word? So if you say you're going to do something, if you set a deadline, do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does your executive, or whoever it is, did they know that it's okay? I've handed this to Fiona and I know it will be done.
Mm-hmm.
Again, showing up on time is really important. Running into a meeting, bang on and I know we're busy. Like, I know executive assistants are really busy, but to try and get in the habit of being a couple of minutes early for whatever it is you've got to show up for, it makes a big difference, because that is what sets you up for success in that meeting. You're not flustered, you're together, you can be grounded, you've got yourself set.
And I think, like, within that as well, how we communicate now. So ready, like, if you're waiting for information to print off or something, like, bring your iPad or bring the tools that you need if you can, if you're waiting for information before you get to it, so that you're prepared.
Exactly. That brings us right on to my next question to ask yourself. Are you adequately prepared?
Mm-hmm.
Are you running around like a headless chicken? And don't get me wrong, I've been running around sometimes like a swan. I look like everything's grand, but the legs are going 90 because we're trying to do so many things.
Yeah.
But, but all these points will set you up.
Mm-hmm.
And are you dressed for success? Are you groomed well? And it's important. If you're going to be working at CEO level, if you want to be working at CEO level, you've got to have the CEO mindset. So you've got to look the part. Looking the part is just as important as playing the part.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
question on that, Lisa.
Yeah.
I spoke to someone yesterday, and it's more than just how you're presented. It's probably something to do with the executive presence as well. But they are in a role where they're in an education environment and they want to move into a corporate environment, and they, the feedback that they're just getting from recruiters is, oh, you don't have corporate experience. Like, I would be of the opinion that skills are transferable if you're moving from one industry to the next. Would you have any other advice on that?
Yeah, so that's where, that person gets to really look at their skills and their values, so that they can come back when a recruiter says to them, well, you don't have corporate experience. Well, what do you exactly mean by corporate experience? So if they can get more information from the recruiter, like when you say corporate experience, can you be specific? What kind of experience? Well, actually, that's when you can talk into. I'm a very effective communicator. I have, experience in it could be something like, oh, you don't have experience in formatting official documents. Well, I worked in education, so that's not going to be difficult for me.
Yeah.
I've got to, you can. So the more information, or
specific feedback on what they mean.
Yeah. Because what does that mean? You don't have
I know.
Corporate experience in what? So be curious, ask questions, get specific. I'd like to know exactly what you mean by that, because I guarantee you that person can say, well, okay, I haven't done it in a corporate environment, but I do have this body of experience and I can transfer that across. Everything is, experience is experience.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, sorry, interrupt you there. I think you were on number 7, were you?
Number 7 was dress for success. So, setting yourself up, your mindset, our appearance is really important. It really is, because that's when somebody meets us first, the first 10 seconds of meeting us, that's when they set their impression. I know it's not fair, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
So you've got, if you want to be at CEO level, you've got to meet it at where it's at.
Right. Yeah.
And it might not be your thing, like jeans and runners might be your thing. It's my thing on the weekend. But I know if I'm working in a corporate environment, then I've just got to be suited and booted, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
It depends, and it depends as well. It depends on the environment you're working in. If you're working for a startup or a tech, they're not going to expect you to be dressed like that. So you kind
of, isn't it, how that is?
Yeah.
A startup or one of the social media.
They're always more, casual.
Yeah, or smart.
Yeah.
Casual, but yeah.
But again, if you're going to meet like the CEO of the company, or the president of the company, or the chairperson of the company, you want to set an impression.
Yeah.
So, I would say meet those people where they're at. And then the last one was set your boundaries. You do not have to be a nodding dog, or, a dog's body. Because you're an executive assistant does not mean that you've got to be constantly saying yes, or you've got to be tearing yourself into a million pieces. It's okay to say no, knowing when it's okay to say no, because your executive is your priority. And his time, her time is very precious. And the more you get to know that person, the more you'll know what's important to them. So people are coming looking for their time. It's okay to say, not today, I'm sorry, no, and be firm. Set your boundaries, be confident. That comes with your confidence. And it's perfectly fine to be quietly confident, politely confident. That's where you get the respect.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose just based on all of those, those key questions you want to ask yourself. And again, we can share them with everybody afterwards when we're sharing the links to the full series. Would you kind of say again, okay, with all these questions, I need to sit and take time out and set aside time to go through each single one of these questions and ask and answer honestly as well.
Yeah, take time, look at those questions individually and be honest with yourself. Like how am I showing up? Really, honestly, be honest. Am I running in the door 10 minutes late 3 days of the week? Am I running out the door? And we all have our reasons for doing this, oh, the bus didn't come on time, or, oh, the traffic was bad. But like, that's your environment. You could, you're in control. If you find that the bus never comes on time, leave your house 15 minutes earlier, because you're in control. The bus is not controlling you.
I had
you know what I mean?
an appointment this morning, Lisa, and the car wouldn't start because it was so cold. And I was like,
there you go. I mean, these things happen, and I was the same. I had an appointment this morning that ran slightly over, and I was texting you, I would be there in 5 minutes. These things happen, of course. This is life. But if you honestly find yourself running into work day after day, bedraggled, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even get to iron my shirt and it's all crumpled and I'm 10 minutes late, and it's a bit like the Bridget Jones syndrome. I remember somebody that I worked with, she said to me, Lisa, I used to suffer from the Bridget Jones syndrome. I'd run into work 10 minutes late with my skirt tucked into my tights, like that's not setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. So something clicked with her.
Yeah, just be honest with yourself. And being honest with ourselves is hard, because we like to sugarcoat. We like to say, no, I'm not that bad. Like, I'm grand, and sure, nobody notices. I can tell you now, what you do in your day-to-day job, it gets noticed.
Yeah.
It gets noticed. Things we don't realize, but you notice things about people notice things about you. So you just set yourself up for how you want. It's like what you want to be known for. Do you want to be known as, cool, calm, collected, confident, like trustworthy? I know that this person is okay and I can and reliable. Or do you want to be known for the Bridget Jones
scenarios?
Yeah, like, it's about practice. It's about kind of just being real with yourself and saying, okay, what do I want to do differently? How can I do it differently? Do I need support? Do I need a group of people that I can kind of brainstorm with, who can help me out? Do I need a coach? Where do I get to go to step up?
Well, yeah, you actually mentioned that at the right point, Lisa, because I was just going to say, now that we've kind of summarized everything, and if people are wondering where they could go to get the help and the support and have a network, we actually are enrolling at the moment for our Elevate program to start in early 2023, and you are going to be the mentor and coach for everybody who joins that particular program. And it's a deeply transformational development program. And within that, I suppose I can just talk for a couple of minutes around what is included within that program. We have what we call the 5-stage Powerhouse program. And again, it is like an expansion of all of these sessions that we've done. So you get to really deep dive into the areas of assessing your environment, identifying your values, looking at your effective communication, like deep diving into all of that you have such a great knowledge, Lisa, and you would be leading those coaching and mentoring sessions, which would be monthly. And everyone who joins gets a quarterly coaching session with yourself. You also get 2 days registration at the Executive PA Summit, which is CPD accredited. And you will also get our Powerhouse package, which I was saying includes the affirmations calendar. It includes the Legend Planner, which is great for setting your goals, keeping track, like daily habit trackers, all of that. And again, you have group mentoring sessions, you have accountability buddies, everything basically to get you from where you are in your career now to where you want to get to as well. And then you need to have we have a private networking group for all of the Elevate members as well, and lots of access to previously recorded training and events and blogs. There's weekly group meditation, and you would learn about any of the training and events that we're doing firsthand as well, and lots of other perks and discounts and everything like that. And I will be sharing details with everybody, along with all these links. And just to think about it, I think, like, if you're in an organization that does support your personal and professional development, it's a really good program to I suppose look for support for. And again, to think about the possibilities and where you could get to by taking part in the program, I think would be really valuable for anybody. So yeah, Lisa, you've anything to add on that, because you've been involved in helping us design the program as well.
Yeah, I'm just listening to what the value in that program, and it's hugely valuable. And you know what I found myself from coaching, my own leadership coaching other people, group coaching, individual coaching. And I think group coaching is really powerful in the sense that you realize that I'm not alone. Other people feel the same way. Other people have the same challenges. So yes, when you're doing one-to-one coaching is really powerful, but you can sometimes walk away and feel like, God, is it just, maybe it's just me. But when you're in a group setting, you may not think of a question that wants to be asked, but someone else asks, like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. So somebody has answered a question that you may have walked away and then thought of later if it was one-to-one. Or you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't want to say this is how I'm feeling because I feel a little bit embarrassed, or, and somebody else might mention it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not alone. And then you've those people to reach out to and be part of accountability, because you will always form bonds and connections with people that you're in group coaching with.
Yeah, that's it, I think. And that goes beyond the program that you're doing itself. Like we are setting it as a 12-month program, so like it's a full year, but essentially that's allowing for, you might have holidays, you might miss one or two of the sessions between like clashes with work or holidays, where you can catch up afterwards. And also a lot of the programs we've done ourselves in the past, they could be like 90-day programs, and I think that's great. You can be really committed for those 90 days. But I just think to have like a continuous professional development program is really, really helpful. And, you can also, you don't have to just do it for the 12 months. You can do it again and again and again. It's all about like constant progression and constantly developing yourself. And we'd also have various guest speakers coming online and delivering to the group as well, on various aspects of the role and things that are going to help you in your role. So it's a really, really rich transformational program for anybody who is interested. And otherwise, we'll have we'll hopefully do this again, Lisa. It's been
sure.
It's been fantastic, and there's so many topics I know that you can deliver on, and that you're experienced in, and you've actually been in the role yourself, so you fully understand the ins and outs of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know all the challenges. I know, like, the role can be so fulfilling, and I love being executive assistant, but it comes with its challenges. Yeah. It really does. And I think that's where I really benefited from the forums in the past. And I built a good network of people around me through that. And I just found it great for reaching out if I needed support around anything. Because again, it helps. When you've got other people around you who come up with suggestions and ideas, and it's like, wow, it makes life so much easier, and it allows you to move up much quicker. Because you don't know what you don't know. If somebody else says, actually, have you heard about this training that you can do, or have you heard about this is the new part of an EA role that's coming up? Like, you might not have heard of that.
Exactly.
But you're gathering knowledge and you're gathering information. and learning and growing through others. And I just think that's really powerful.
I think that's it. And it's all about, like, when you are in that group setting, you do progress more quickly than when you're just accountable to yourself. And as we were saying before, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So I do think it's very important, particularly if you're somebody who learns better around other people, or who's more inclined to do things around, when other people are involved. It's definitely for you. And again, it can be scary, it can be out of your comfort zone, but that's where you're going to learn, right? That's, if you have that growth mindset and you want to develop, that's the best thing that you can do.
Absolutely. And you've got cheerleaders behind you. You've got accountability then. So if you are putting yourself forward for something and you're feeling nervous about it, you have those people behind you that again will support you and give you that kind of lift that you need.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. I think accountability is really, really important, because it's very easy for us to have great ideas, but when it comes to putting them into place and it gets scary, we tend to move back, because we say, actually, I'll just leave it. I don't really want it that much.
It's hard to be motivated. Well, not for you. You're in sunnier climes, but sometimes it can feel hard to motivate yourself this time of year. So it's important to kind of, keep yourself on track. Well, look, again, we've run out of time and we could keep chatting away. But I just want to say thank you so much for doing these sessions. They've been really helpful for lots of people, Lisa. And thank you all for joining, anyone who's joined any of our sessions and anyone who's joined today and contributed as well. Just thank you so much. And I'm going to miss them. I'm actually going to miss them now that we won't have them. Well, not this side of Christmas, but let's see what we end up doing in the new year. But just want to say thanks again, Lisa. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Fiona. I think it was a brilliant idea. So this is all you're doing and organizing. So thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to be here. And if anybody has any questions or would like to reach out to me, just to, ask me anything or brainstorm, please feel free. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Lisa Mitten on LinkedIn. So don't be shy.
Great stuff. That's a lovely message came in from Kristen. I joined this session mistakenly, but found myself stuck because this session was so rich and beneficial. Thanks, Kristen. It's great to have you here. And Deirdre and Marie and Rachel and Aisling is there as well. So thanks to everybody. Okay, have a lovely evening.
Have a lovely evening and have a great Christmas.
Yes, you
it's only 2 weeks really till Christmas.
Have a great Christmas. All right.
Bye. Thanks, Fiona.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.